Hello everyone, and thank you for coming. I am Mark Rosekind, R-O-S-E-K-I-N-D, and I am a board member with the National Transportation Safety Board. NTSB investigators arrived this morning to investigate yesterday's accident between a UP freight train and the flatbed semi-trailer that was acting as a parade float. Before I go any further, on behalf of all the men and women at the NTSB, I want to express our condolences to all of the families and friends of those who lost their lives in this accident, and let everybody know that our thoughts are with those that are recovering from injuries. First, just a little basic info. The NTSB is an independent federal agency. We are charged by Congress to investigate every civil aviation accident and significant accidents in rail, highway, marine, and pipeline. Besides determining the probable cause, one of the most important things we do is, based on probable cause, issue safety recommendations so that accidents don't happen into the future. Now, the NTSB has responded with a 16-member GO team to this accident. They include folks that are coming from Texas, Colorado, California, and Washington, D.C. Mr. Robert Acetta, that is spelled A-C-C-E-T-T-A. Mr. Robert Acetta will be the investigator in charge. He will be referred to as the IIC. Mr. Acetta has over 20 years of experience in investigations at the NTSB. He has a team that he will be leading that has expertise in 7 different areas. They include railroad signals, railroad operations, recorders, vehicle factors, motor carrier operations, human performance, and also survival factors. We also have specialists here from several other offices at the NTSB. They include people from our Office of Transportation Disaster Assistance. Those are the folks that will provide family support. And we also have specialists that are here from government affairs as well as public affairs. I have some preliminary information. Some of this has been widely reported, but there's some specific stuff I will highlight that is coming now from the NTSB. So, preliminary. This was a Hunt for Heroes parade that was westbound on Wall Street in Midland when it turned south onto Garfield Street, crossing the train tracks. The last float, carrying 26 people, 12 heroes, 12 spouses, and 2 escorts that were all seated on the flatbed. The first parade float passed the train and crossed. The second was struck by a UP eastbound train that had started its trip in Los Angeles, California, and was heading toward Shreveport, Louisiana. This train had 4 locomotive units, 3 on the front, 1 in the back. It had 84 loaded cars and was 7,243 feet long. We have been told by emergency responders there have been 4 fatalities and numerous injuries. And one of the things I want to make clear is that the Midland Police Department will be the official agency that will be reporting on both fatalities as well as injuries. That information will not come from us. This is new information that's coming from the NTSB now. The first train had what is called a track image recorder, or TIR. It is a forward-facing video camera. There are also event recorders on each of the locomotives. These event recorders would collect things like speed, braking, horn, etc. There is also a truck engine module, and there was a sheriff's car directly behind the float that had a dash camera on it. So I bring all of these up because these are different sources of recorders, both video and event recorders, that are being collected by NTSB specialists right now. Some of them have already been collected. They won't be analyzed on site, but we do actually have an airplane waiting so that if we can get much of this out, it will be on its way back to Washington this afternoon. Because all of this data basically will be collected, see what kind of shape that it's in, and then sent to Washington, D.C. to be analyzed in our labs.
Mark.
Hang on. Oop, okay. This was a highway rail grade crossing warning system, which means it had flashing light units as well as gate arms, each directed into different directions of traffic. The NTSB has not determined yet whether they were functioning at the time of the accident. And this just gives me an opportunity to highlight there are reports of many different aspects of the accident going on. The NTSB is here to perform the safety investigation, and we'll be collecting our own data, which will subsequently be analyzed. Now, over the next few days, our investigators will work on scene. Their primary job will be to thoroughly document the accident site, and then also to make sure that we collect all the factual information, especially things focused on anything that could be perishable at this time. I really want to highlight our mission is to determine the probable cause of the accident. Many people think that it's just describing what happened. It goes far beyond that. We're actually interested in determining why it happened, because it's that why that allows us as an agency to determine what safety recommendations are needed to make sure these kinds of accidents don't happen into the future. Now, one of the things that everybody's interested in is how long will we be here? It's estimated we'll be on scene probably 7 to 10 days, and that'll be for our on-scene investigators to collect that perishable information. I do want to highlight our on-scene investigation has just started. This is just the beginning of the first day. We don't have a lot of information yet, but we will be giving you continual updates. The first one will be tonight at 4:30 here. We'll do another press brief. And the other thing, just to stay in touch with us through a couple of different mechanisms, are first, you can follow us on our website, which is just ntsb.gov. You can also follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/NTSB. And you've already met, but I'm going to highlight again. This is Peter Knudson, Knudson, and his phone number is 202-557-1350. Just a final comment, we really want to thank all of the first responders to this accident. They've been working very hard, and we appreciate all the efforts that they've put in thus far. We have time for a few questions.
Mark, did Union Pacific issue a track bulletin for this parade?
So the question is whether UP issued a track bulletin for this parade. That's the kind of information we're collecting right now that we're looking into.
So early on, you don't know if you have it or not yet, whether one was out there?
I know it's been asked for. So that's, and in fact, I'll just use that as an opportunity to say we're collecting a huge amount of information. You're going to ask questions. My response is going to be we're after that. As soon as we get it, though, we'll at least be able to report what the factual information is at this point.
Have you talked or gotten statements from the driver of the big rig?
So the question is, have there been any statements or interviews yet with the driver of the tractor trailer? There have been some statements made to police thus far, but our investigators have not yet had a chance to interview him.
There's indication that why he was stuck on the track?
So the question is, do we know what he was saying? And our NTSB interviewers are just starting that process. They will review what's been told to the police at this point, but our investigators will conduct their own interviews as well.
There's indications that there were 10 prior collisions at this site in the past. What do you have to say about that?
So the question is reports of 10 previous collisions at this site.
Correct.
What we can tell you is there were actually 10 between 1979 and 1997. So there hasn't been anything here for 15 years. None of those involved fatalities. I can report that in the 2011 Federal Rail Administration database, there have been 266 fatalities across the country, 16 of those in Texas, which puts Texas number 3 on that list.
Well, with those collisions, though, in the 10 prior, were there any changes or anything made to this site to kind of rectify that?
So the question is whether, based on the previous accidents here, whether changes were made. That's exactly the kind of information that's being put together. That we will have by this afternoon or by tomorrow, probably.
Mark, can you explain, were the gate arms coming down in the middle of the passengers riding on that flatbed?
So the question was whether the gates were actually coming down in the middle of the passengers on the flatbed. One of the things we're going to be able to do from video and the data that's available from the signal system, et cetera, is to actually get that down to seconds. So we don't have that yet. Again, there are a lot of reports about things, but we're going to be able to know from multiple sources what happened when.
Mark, tell us again how long your investigation takes. Is it 60, 90 days, something like that?
So the question is how long the investigation will take. We will have in about 10 business days when our investigators leave an initial factual report of what happened and what they collected on scene. And again, that will be available on our website and sent out to anyone who's interested. The complete investigation can take up to a year. What I always like to highlight for people is, first, if we find anything in the course of our investigation that needs immediate attention, we will issue an urgent safety recommendation. So we don't have to wait for a year. If there's something we find that needs attention now, we will issue an urgent recommendation right away. I do like to point out when people ask, so it could take up to a year, yes. I mentioned there's 7 different groups that are collecting data. They all have to do a full report. And there will be thousands of pages of information generated on this, then analyzed, finally brought to the board, where findings, probable cause, and safety recommendations are determined.
Mark, but what about the engineer? Has he told you anything yet about what he saw, when he saw it?
So the question is, what about the engineer? Do we know any information from him yet about what he saw, when he saw it, etc.? We are going to be interviewing every person that's involved. Some of those people have given statements, others have not, and our NTSB folks will interview them all directly.
What about the engineer specifically?
So the question was the engineer specifically, everyone involved, driver, engineer, you bet, including, there was an officer in the car behind.
You have talked to him yet?
So we're just here, all those are being set up.
At this point,
Can I just, yes sir.
Have you been advised that I had a video that actually showed the whole wreck before it happened and after?
So the question is, what about people that might have eyewitness accounts or videos of what was going on? We're interested in seeing any of that.
Okay, sir, the video that I had was improperly taken from me by police officers, so you'll know that, so you can investigate that.
So apparently there's already been one videotape collected, but what I want to point out is anybody that's got an eyewitness account or video or photographs that would be helpful, we will have probably a phone number or email address at the 4:30 briefing, so anybody in the community that wants to provide stuff, and I can't tell you how invaluable that is for us to get information.
Mark, do you know if there's been any malfunctions with the tractor trailer? Has there been any evidence of that?
So the question is whether there's any kind of malfunction or problem with the tractor trailer. Again, that's one of the things we'll be looking at, the functioning. And I would like to point out, we have both highway and rail people here because we're interested in the functioning of the train and locomotive as well as the semi-trailer tractor. You bet. So we're going to make that the last question. We'll be back here at 4:30 probably with more information. All right?